Welcome to Leadership Unlocked, where we uncover the pivotal stories that shape extraordinary leaders. I'm Dusty Holcomb, and on this show, we don't just talk about leadership, we decode it. In every episode, we sit down with the change makers who've walked through the fire, challenged the status quo, and emerged with wisdom worth sharing. These aren't just lessons, they're lived experiences, real moments that reveal the mindset, the resilience, the clarity behind creating lasting impact. And boy, let me tell you, today you're going to hear one of those stories. Amanda Byrd went from high-performing sales executive to a chaplain, a coach, and a founder who is helping women unlock their own hidden potential. It started in a moment where one person wasn't being treated with grace, dignity, love, and respect. And from that moment, Amanda's life changed, and the lives of those that she serves will be changed forever. Let's get into it. This is Leadership Unlocked. Amanda, I am so delighted that you have carved out some time for us today, that you've chosen to invest some time with me and with our audience so that we can learn from you and from the amazing things that you've done and the amazing things that you're doing to serve others. So thank you so much for this time today.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Before we get into all the process and the things that we can learn from you, I just have to ask, how does someone navigate a transition from being an incredibly successful sales executive, someone who's leading organizations, doing amazing things, and also choose to be a chaplain serving in hospice and doing some incredible service things? Tell me the story there.
Yeah, so it was 6 or 7 years ago in Palm Springs. It was a sales awards trip. So we are at a dinner. A member of my team gets a little dehydrated, ends up passing out at dinner. Ambulance is called. He's taken to the ER. His wife just didn't happen to be able to make this trip. So as good leaders do, I found somebody with a car and followed the ambulance to the ER to just make sure he was okay. While he is back getting checked out, I'm with this other guy who was running the meeting. We're out in this ER. It's full. It's overpacked. People are going out into the road. People are in the parking lot. It's Palm Springs at 11 o'clock at night. It's hot. And I'm sitting outside waiting, and there is a woman in a wheelchair, an older woman, and she's crying, begging for water. She has no shoes on. Her feet are, you can tell she can't walk because her feet are just swollen. And I realized then that she's homeless. So people are all standing around her. Everyone's looking. So I had a water bottle. I'm give it to her to give her some water, and she's shaking and crying so badly she can't hold it. So I just held the water bottle and fed her water, sitting outside this ER. And then I look and I turn and I see someone's actually filming me. So I'm like, oh, this is weird. This is a moment. And later, she's still there. It's an hour later. I'm still waiting. She's crying. She's begging to go back. She's in pain. And so I just go to the desk and said, someone needs to get out here and help this woman. And they said, she's homeless. She's here every night. We don't have time to get to her. In that moment, it was not the right answer for me. I'm a little bit more emotionally regulated now, 5, 6 years later in those kind of situations. But just said, no, I want to speak to whoever's in charge. She's a human being and she's going to be taken back there, or I'll take her back myself. So they did. They came out. Nurse was a little frustrated with me. Obviously, they take her back. Hour later, I'm back with my guy talking to his wife, telling her she's okay. He's fine, just, a little dehydrated. And the head of the ER came in and said, she's calling for you. I went to her bedside and she said, can you come here? And she touched my face and she said, you are my guardian angel. It was this moment that I can't explain. I call them God moments, but when I knew something big was happening, but I had no idea what in the hell it was. The head of the ER actually then apologized to me and to her. What I now know as a healthcare chaplain is that was just them also being burnout and too much to do, and them dealing with that kind of thing every evening. The next morning, I'm hiking with my team and other people, and I'm telling them this story. And I realized when I was telling them, they were more shocked at what I did. I just had assumed that everyone would do that. Mm. And they were really shocked by it. And that's when I knew again, I don't know what this means. A year later, I become really depressed, looking for meaning. What's next for me and meaning in my career? And I just was meditating and working with a coach and saying, when do I feel like I'm myself? Like I'm my true self, where I'm, not masks, I'm me. And I thought back to that moment and just said, I was my true self in that moment. And I had become a hospice volunteer when I came back, was working in hospice, and then just realized it was this balance of compassion with courage that I was like, that's who I want to be. 3 years later, here I am. Or, 5, 6 years later, here I am.
There's so much there that I want to dig into. And the reaction from your team doesn't surprise me, but it also does, right? Because how often do we as humans see the person in need, the homeless person, the person who's challenged, or, and we look the other way. We're too busy. The parable of the Good Samaritan comes to mind. We just walk on the other side of the road. And it amazes me that people react that way, but also that, I've been guilty of it too, right? We just get busy or something else is going on. And in that moment, you didn't. I love that. One thing that struck me as you were talking about this and telling is how you had the presence of mind and also the background, the experience, the knowledge to not accept the answer the nurse gave you, but to say, and you used the words emotionally regulated. You weren't as emotionally regulated as you are now, but to I'm guessing there was some skill that you had built over your career and over your life of leadership that actually came to bear in that moment, where you were able to put on the command voice and go, no, that's not an acceptable answer, and I need to see someone. Mm-hmm. And that's amazing that you were able to do that. Did you have any idea how impactful or important, how much of an inflection point that single act of choosing to step into something as opposed to stepping away from something would be?
It was like instinctual. I cannot explain it other than I felt it in my stomach. I had always been the person that would say the thing nobody wanted to talk about. The elephant in the room cannot hide when I'm present. So that I always had, to your point, as a leader, and always kind of that person who would stand up for people. And, if there was ever something that I would say, I knew I would never be long-term or never wanted to work my way up in the corporate ladder, it was because I just didn't know when to shut up when it came to people. I just didn't know when to shut up. And in that hospital room, I guess it actually benefited me that I just didn't know to shut up. It was just, I knew what she needed, and I was going to make sure it happened.
Yeah, and didn't know that in the moment you were becoming a guardian angel. I love that you recognize now that the staff there weren't uncaring. They were overwhelmed, overburdened, overtired, all the overs that you can think of. It sounds like when you started becoming a chaplain and learning this, what is it that you saw that kind of shifted your perspective as you've navigated that and seen, the room from inside the walls, so to speak?
So I work in hospice now, but when I first started out as a chaplain, I worked in ICUs and hospitals in Chicago. And then I did about a 6-month stint as an ER chaplain, the midnight shift on the south side of Chicago.
Wow.
And the things that I saw there and the lessons I learned about the good and bad of humanity, but also really what I learned is we're just all doing the best we can every day to stay safe. That's all we're doing, whether it's in the boardroom, in a meeting, in a hospital, in the grocery store. We're just all doing the best we can. That's what I have learned the most as a chaplain, is that ability to just be with what is, whether it makes us comfortable or not. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, so I can avoid, and if you need to avoid something, I can give you 1,000 ways to avoid something. I'm a distraction queen, but being a chaplain really, it made me a better leader because I now know how to just hold space with whatever is, whether it's good or bad. And I think that to me is what it's about, just meeting people where they are.
Okay, I want to come back to this. How has being a chaplain made you a better leader? We're going to come back to that. I want to go a little deeper on something you said about you saw the best and worst of humanity, Southside, night shift, Chicago, ER chaplain. Share with us a story, a best of humanity story, if you would, if you have any that come to mind where you can exemplify that we're all doing the best we can with what we have. Did any stories come to mind immediately for you?
A lot of times in ERs at night, it's younger physicians kind of learning the ropes. And they work a lot. They work, 24-hour shifts sometimes. And there was a young resident. So as the chaplain there, you were there when the physician told the families that someone had passed. Mm-hmm. And on the south side of Chicago, it could be anything from, it was a big trauma unit. So a lot of gang violence, a lot of, car accidents, things like that, tragic things. Terrible night, a young person had committed suicide, and her aunt, who was kind of serving as her mother, was in the room, and she just lost it. And so we're sitting in this room called the quiet room, and she throws herself down on the ground. And this resident, a lot of them try to stay emotionally distant. That's how they survive. They just kind of say it and leave it to the chaplain to clean the mess out. He sat down on the ground next to her and held her. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, where it was like, that's the doctor I want. That's the one I want. And I, talked to him later about that, because it takes extreme vulnerability to open yourself up emotionally, because then he's got to stand up and go out there and go deal with the next tragedy, right? Seeing that was like, that's a leader. That's a early 30s leader. He's going to do great things.
Did you share with him by chance the impact that had on you, or ever convey to him how impactful and meaningful that was?
Yeah, that night explained the difference and said, if you need to talk to me later tonight, because that's a lot for you and for all of us, but also that I explained what I normally see, and then explained how he was different and what a difference that made. And that, in the ER, you maybe only know someone for 7 minutes, and it's the worst 7 minutes of their life. And to explain to him that made a difference.
I think that's such an important thread. And I think so many of our audience members and leaders can take that, and it doesn't have to be a moment of tragedy, but recognizing greatness, recognizing difference, recognizing something that should be called out, rewarded, even if it's not a monetary, financial, it's just the affirmation and validation that what they did was powerful. Like, I have to imagine that he's probably heard those types of things before, but maybe he's not. Maybe that one nudge from you at that moment reinforced to him that his degree of caring really does make a difference, not just for the person who he's comforting, but for the people who are around him, observing him. Because, that leadership by example, by him just being authentic and vulnerable and caring. And I love the fact that you went to him and said, and if you need me, I'm here to help you. Like, that's so cool that you connected that circle, you closed that circle for him. And I think that that's an opportunity that we as leaders have to be real on the lookout for, in taking the opportunity to share. What have been some other lessons, leadership lessons you've learned as a chaplain? How is it being and becoming a hospital chaplain? And by the way, I mean, Southside Chicago at night, and then now into hospice, like you're not shying away from the deepest hurt that a human can have on this earth. You are leaning right into it. How has becoming a chaplain helped you be a better leader?
Well, I think now, especially being in hospice work, is I sit with people every day performing life reviews, looking back over their life. And I get to sit with, regret. Regret about life not lived, chances not taken. I've read every leadership book, all of them about, how to be a better leader. And I think what I have realized is I am here to help people and to really learn myself how to be the leader of my own life. As an executive coach, I always did, some executive coaching on the side. I always wanted to go like just one little step deeper. I call it like a double click. I just wanted to double click on that pattern. Like what is there? What is that? And as a chaplain, a hospice chaplain especially, I meet someone and know them, and in the first 15 minutes, I say, what are your greatest fears? And imagine how different our world would be if we all just got to talk about our fears, and that ability to be listened to. I thought I was a good listener before I was a chaplain. I was pretty good. I know what good listening is now. And the healing that can occur by just being heard.
It strikes me as you share that the importance of not having to wait until we are seeing the end to ask, be asked, and then have the opportunity to answer that greatest fears question. And to be able to do so with authenticity and transparency and vulnerability, and not worrying about what anybody else thinks. And the gift of you asking that question, and then the not too late, but the gift of being able to do it without burdened about what others think. That's powerful. The ability to be the leader of your own life is, it really is the ultimate ability to have an impact on others. Like, I have this firm tenet and belief that leadership of self is what precedes leadership and influence for others and on others. Like, you have to be able to lead yourself first. And we teach that in our accelerator programs. And it is so powerful when you take the opportunity to go, I don't know everything. I've got to be better. I have to learn. I thought I was a good listener before, but now I've realized I need to be better. And the ripple effect of doing that, and it's not selfish to be investing in yourself and leading yourself. It's actually an obligation to create a higher degree of impact and a higher degree of service. And I love how you frame that. Like, now the mission is to be better in helping others be the better at leading their own lives, because that's how they can have impact and influence. All right, let's go back in time 20 years. Would you have ever believed you're doing this now?
20 years? No.
Pick a time frame. You might not have believed it 7 years ago, but how did you start this journey?
I wanted to be a teacher. I was the first one to go to college in my family. And so my dad said, no, you're going to be a business major. And that's what I did. So then I said, okay, I want to do something with people. And so then I started doing HR internships. and ended up doing an internship with a woman who was in insurance, because I thought, well, if I'm going to be in HR, I need to understand insurance. And she did employee benefits. Then she said, I don't know, you've met enough HR people. You're not an HR person, you're a salesperson. Come work for me. And then started really a 20-year career in insurance sales.
All right, I have to ask, you're not an HR person, you're a salesperson. What was the big divide there? What was the behavioral or skill that you had that led you down, or led her to pull you or call you into sales?
I think it was my first personality profile I took. I said, so what does this mean? What, can you just, tell me what it was? And she said, essentially, it means you're unmanageable.
Well, there's a cold shower for you. You are an unmanageable human being. Good luck. You're going into sales.
Yeah. So I think I proved that for the next 20 some years. So sorry to my managers, but yes, that's kind of.
That's amazing. Well, that's harnessing God's gift and talent that he's given you to create impact and build something. What, as you think back on your professional career and then leading to where you are now, giving and serving others, what have been some moments of inflection, leadership growth that you've experienced, whether it was given to you or caused by a mentor or a tough situation that you navigated? Do any key leadership inflection points or the influencers that helped you see them? Maybe the person who says you're unmanageable is one, but have there been any of those that you'd want to pull out and go, man, when I look back now, I can recognize that was an incredible lesson. That was an incredible opportunity. And here's what I learned from it.
It's one of my professors at Northwestern when I was learning to be a coach and getting my master's, and he's an amazing executive coach and consultant, said something, and it has stuck with me and really changed how I view people in general, and leadership is our job as leaders is not to guide people. It's to uncover what they already know.
I'm gritty. I love that.
Isn't that beautiful? And that's just really changed how I have approached people in general in my life, my family, when I'm arguing with my brothers. I mean, really, like, I don't need to convince them or prove that I'm right. It's just to show them that they already know. I mean, what? And you do that by, again, shutting up and being curious.
It's so profound when you switch from telling, teaching, showing to guiding and unlocking, and, the question mindset, the listening mindset, the ability to help them see what they already have inside of them, or whatever it is. It's a powerful, powerful thing because they have agency and you're just helping them see it. And, I still have a leadership coach, and even though I do some of that work, it's because I can't see my own blind spots. I still have to, have somebody get in my ear and help me unlock those things. And it's the power of having those relationships and those people in your life who will help you be your best self and unlock those things is so rich and so powerful. Who have been some people or mentors that have helped you see some things that maybe you didn't even know at the time and helped you find those answers that were already inside of you?
I've had some great coaches as well. So I'm a firm believer in coaching and executive coaches that have really helped me, again, see my blind spot. I would say those who have been on my team and have reflected back to me really when I've screwed up. I mean, such a gift to have a team that feels, first of all, confident enough to tell you when you screw up. But those have been some of my biggest lessons of someone saying, when you did that, that didn't work for me.
I have to ask you this. I think this is a wonderful topic. How did you as a leader create and inculcate a culture where not only was that accepted, but it was expected? What is it that you did, or how did you create the environment that made it safe? Because so many people don't have the opportunity to be part of a team like that.
since I led sales teams and mostly male sales teams, a lot of it was just, generally speaking, these are very independent people who are very, they're outspoken, extroverted, so you have to learn how to maneuver when you have, 15 men sitting in a room with all have an opinion. And so part of it's just maneuvering around that, I think. But then also, I think it really has always been my curiosity. I've always wondered, is there a better way? Is there a better way to do this? Is there a better way? And that curiosity always created kind of an open-mindedness of, hey, I may not agree and I might bite your head off in the first 5 seconds because it's going to be my pattern of like, I don't like that. But then keep going and I'll listen and we'll see if you do have a better way, because you very much probably do. It's what you find.
So hearing that, I'd have to say that you were not interested in being right. You're interested in uncovering what is right, the best way, a better way. It's not about your own ego stake or you having to be the one that has all of the answers. Is that a fair understanding?
Yes, absolutely. Now, and, later in my career. And I think also is that early stages of our careers, especially when we're leading teams early, I was leading teams in my mid-20s, is that we're still developmentally, psychologically in our own ego development stage. And so we're just naturally not going to be as good at that kind of stuff. We're still figuring out our own stuff and giving ourselves some grace a little bit in those mistakes and knowing, okay, eventually I'm going to get to a place where I'm secure enough in my own ego and vulnerable enough to know that there's probably a better way out there. And really approaching and starting to think about leadership development in that way, that where is this person on their ego development as a leader trajectory? And how do we help them lean into that? And again, just, give them some space, that they're a 35-year-old manager who's only been leading a team for a couple of years is not going to have that same ability as the 50-some-year-old who's been doing it for 20 years. And that's okay. But how can we help him continue to get better?
I'm struck by that because I think thinking through and understanding that when you're in that situation where you're guiding them, either as a coach or as a leader of their team, et cetera, you're serving them. It's not about you. It's about understanding where they are, meeting them where they are, helping them navigate to their next place, which is not, you're doing the same thing as a chaplain. You're doing the same thing as a coach. You're doing the same thing, meeting people where they are. And you've kind of come back to that as a framing paradigm several different times in this conversation. And I absolutely love that. And it's going to give me something to think about regarding how you do that and how you intentionally curate that. When you think about those mentors who have been influential to you or gifted you with wisdom at certain stages of your life, you mentioned the one that you're a professor at Northwestern. Any other mentors stand out or lessons that they passed on to you that would be, you look back at now, maybe didn't even see it as a lesson in the moment, but you look back now and go, wow, that was a pearl of wisdom. That was something powerful.
I want to say it's in the corporate world, but it really has been more recent. If you're talking about how to lead your own life, is I have a mentor, a chaplain mentor, and she's 80 years old. She works a crazy number of hours a week as a teacher. She's done everything. She's been a counselor. She's been a teacher. She's been a minister. She's been all of these things. She takes courses on the weekends.
Wow.
She really has just inspired me to experiment even more, to be more open to what's possible, to be even more sure. I'll be 50 this year, but I'm not done yet. And we need more people. And then for me personally, passionate about is getting more women into the world who are courageous and are doing whatever they want to do in their little pocket of the world to make it better. And, I will be forever grateful to her. She has taught me how to be more of my true self, own my stuff, good and bad. So shout out to Ida. I'll make her listen to this podcast.
Huge shout out to Ida.
She's amazing. Yeah.
Well, hearing that, there is nothing that Ida is doing that is about Ida. She's doing this to serve, to give to you, and having obviously a profound impact on you. And golly, at 80 years old, doing all those things, like, we get to choose how we spend our time and what we focus on. And she's not choosing to sit at home and watch, daytime drama or do anything else. She's choosing to make an impact. Well, you mentioned something you're passionate about and helping women specifically navigate and create more impact. Tell me more about that. Tell me what you're up to.
I, have been coaching for a while, always, just as something to do on the side to keep me from being bored, and because I really just love it. And early when I was coaching a few years ago and started, it was mostly with women, actually, women who were in transition, a lot of women in finance who were in transition, and then just started kind of changing. And I ended up coaching more men and men's and in teams, mostly because it was sales and it's just a male dominated industry. Again, this hospice work has really did something for me to say, when I'm seeing people, especially women, after visits, I go and I journal really quickly. What did I learn? What do I need to think about later? And what I notice more and more is women regretting not making moves in their life, being afraid, of fears coming up that they don't even know why they were afraid of it. And so I've really decided that, the world's kind of a scary place right now. And the natural caregivers, we are, generally speaking, are the women. And that if we can get more women to face their fears, to have a place to acknowledge their fears and then do it in community with encouragement and just go out and do their little thing in their own little pocket of the world, whatever that is, then, that to me would be my legacy, is how can I have more impact by encouraging more women to go out and do big things in the world, or little things, just to do something that makes a difference in their own lives and the lives of others.
As I hear you talk about this, the first thing that comes to mind that really strikes me is you captured this insight through the intentional practice of journaling, taking the short amount of time to pause, reflect, and learn. And that has led you, helped you uncover this path. Have you always journaled? Has that always been part of your repertoire of learning? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so journaling has, since my 20s been something I've done on and off. But what I learned, in my master's degree about learning, and then later as a chaplain, is reflection is a huge piece of learning that we missed. So in chaplaincy training, you learn it's action, reflection, new action. It's just a part of who I am now. What did I do? What did I not like? What did I like? Now I'm reflecting on it. Let it sit for a minute. What would I do differently next time? What would I do the same way? Done. Check. Let it go.
What advice would you give to someone who isn't following a practice of journaling, really reflecting, the reflection process? What advice would you give them? Because, I'll talk to people. I'm also an active journaler and reflection-oriented thinker. And I hear people ask, oh, God, that's so hard. It's overwhelming. I don't know where to start. What advice would you give someone?
Good question. Oh, take a walk.
Wait, are you telling me to go take a walk right now and you'll think about it?
Take a walk without your phone. No podcast. And, the walk can be 5 minutes. And just think about something that comes up. You're going to think about it anyway at 3:00 in the morning. Think about it instead at 6:00 at night and take your dog for a walk. It's that itself, and then writing something down that you learned while you were walking. It can be that simple. It's just giving ourselves that space.
Are you analog? Do you use a pen and paper, or do you use digital, write it down? What's your process?
I'm still using pen and paper. I I give myself notes. So if I'm walking and an idea comes to me, I will put it in my phone if my phone happens to be with me, but otherwise I'm still using pen and paper.
Yeah, I go back and forth personally. I want to use digital because like of all the things I can collate and tag and blah, 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 blah. But I don't think as well digitally when I'm typing. I think more effectively when I'm slowed down and forced to write. And that reflection time, it's one of the most powerful personal practices, personal leadership, self-leadership practices that I have ever latched onto. And, it's not new. People have been doing this for thousands of years. We have a 2,000-year-old diary from Marcus Aurelius that, was not meant for public consumption. That is all the thing in Stoicism today to read it. But it is so incredibly powerful. And I love it. I truly love that you identified the opportunity because of this practice. And when folks tell me I'm too busy to do this, the question I always ask is, are you too busy to unlock the next great thing? Like you're missing this opportunity because you're caught in a active cycle of just being reactive as opposed to being proactive. Let me ask you something. Are you leading off of instinct? I mean, you've got the vision, you've built the thing, but most leaders I talk to are still flying without a system. Vision to Victory, the mastermind, changes that. It's a 12-week experience where we install the leadership operating system you've always needed: purpose, strategy, cadence, metrics, execution. This isn't a course. It's not more content. It's a small group of leaders who are done chasing clarity and ready to lead with it. You'll walk out with a full leadership operating system, a trusted circle of peers, and a repeatable way to scale without losing yourself along the way. There are only 12 seats in this group, and most are already spoken for. It's an application-only process. Go to arcusgroup.com/mastermind to apply. When you think about this and some of the women you've worked with and and you mentioned it can be a big thing, it can be a small thing, but it's their thing. Mm-hmm. And you're finding it through regret. How are you going to help them do this? What is your process? What's your framework that you're going to enable them to navigate this journey so they can grab their brass ring or their opportunity so that they can 30, 40, 50 years from now not have that regret that you've seen so many people navigate?
Yeah, so I think it's back to that double click I talked about. Is what I've learned is that it's understanding our conditioning. And once you understand your conditioning and you see one little pattern and you just dig in a little bit as to why, it's that just a little bit more than leadership development. It's kind of a deeper personal development. And then you're validated with that. Like, of course you would be afraid to stand up in a meeting. Of course you would be afraid to take that promotion. Of course you would be afraid to quit your job. Let's talk about why that would be. And all of a sudden, when you understand, oh, that happened to me 10 years ago, and that's now why I'm still afraid, it's so much easier to let go. And we think we have to go down all these rabbit holes and, go into all these deep, dark holes. And you can do it. I've done it. We can do it in different places. But once you just go just one level deeper, you realize that's where the fear usually is. And when you can get to it, all of a sudden you take one next step. Then you realize, oh, that wasn't so scary. 6 months from now, I can double click on the next thing. So my framework is really a 10-week program. I'm calling them Courage Circles. It is a college course on midlife. So it will be some personal development topics and then meeting every couple of weeks. And what is really, I'm calling circle. And circle time is an opportunity to talk about your learning, to openly reflect about what you're learning through the course, and then to be deeply heard and listened and held in that environment. And we don't have a lot of spaces in our lives right now where that happens. I've seen the power of that. And so many women feel, especially at this time, that if they're feeling stuck or what do I do next? Or is this all really, there is, maybe they're becoming an empty nester, maybe they just got laid off, whatever is happening in transition, that they feel alone. And what I know about learning and healing is that it happens in community. It's only when you take your learning and you then apply it in the world and you're able to reflect it back to others is when the true learning and change happens. And that's what I want to do with Courage Circles.
It is beyond the shadow of a doubt that this is going to be wildly successful because it is something that's needed and necessary. We have such strong corollary beliefs. I believe that, leadership doesn't have to be lonely, but you have to find the right community, the right people, like-minded, to challenge you, to really embrace the mindset of iron sharpening iron, which is kind of my primary theme when I think about from a leadership language. What I particularly appreciate about what you're doing is you're going a layer deep, much, much deeper, and really allowing that person to unlock their hidden potential, their unseen potential, perhaps even their unknown potential. And it doesn't have to be, because they're going to change the entire world. They're just going to change theirs or the world of those that they love. And that's just really freaking cool.
Thanks. I'm excited.
You should be. I'm excited for you. I kind of wish I could join, but unfortunately I'm not qualified. No. I don't have enough hair. Let's switch, Amanda. Let me pivot on you a little bit. Let's go to some rapid fire questions because I'm always just patently curious to learn about what others are thinking and learning and doing. What is a book that you believe that every leader should read?
If you watch me on LinkedIn, but all of my friends know, Managing Transitions, Making the Most of Change by William Bridges, an organizational consultant. He is the master of change, but whenever I am going through any transition, good or bad, which I explained, they happen whether the transition is good or bad. With the amount of change happening right now in the world, but then in organizations, understanding the people side of change. And that maybe as a leader, you've sat in a boardroom and planned something for 3 months and then you're rolling it out and you're ready to go. And not understanding that all of the people that you are leading through this change are having normal emotional reactions, and giving space and time for those people to have those is really the key to, effective and long-lasting change and the least amount of pain in that change.
Change is going to happen, but we can be intentional in choosing how we curate the success of that change outcome or the process. And I haven't read that book, but I'm adding it to my read list right now because change is, an absolute inevitability. So how we choose to be intentional about planning it for those that we serve, for ourselves, I can't imagine anything more valuable. Okay, what is a leadership lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
Back to when I first became a manager, I was young. Mid-late 20s. I was a really great salesperson, really good at it, and then thought, well, I'm just going to hire people to do it like I do it. And I had actually hired one of my friends from college who had been in sales. And I'm sitting in a coffee shop and telling him that he's not doing well. We need to work on what is he going to do differently? How is he going to essentially be more like me so he can be successful? And he just stopped and said, the way you are managing me is not making me better. It's making me worse.
How'd that feel?
It just stopped me. And that is something I think about. It was such a great, because he does not have the same personality as me. He still doesn't. Shocker. And he's also wildly successful as a salesperson, with a completely different personality than me. And at, 20 some years old, as my first direct report, he had to go through that because of my own inadequacies, honestly, as a manager and leader. But that was just such a great lesson for me.
And it's so common, and we all have to navigate that, where we think that the way we do it is the best way, and that in order for someone to be successful, they need to do it that same way. I was just yesterday having a conversation with a leader, and we were talking about this same topic, and he was lamenting that they weren't doing it the right way. And I said, well, you're spending too much time on how, and you're not focused on the what needs to be done and by when. Like, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is when we need to do it. You can figure out how. Let's coach to that. And we've all done it. I've certainly had to navigate that. And, frankly, still for us, have to fight those tendencies around, well, this is a good way. They should do it this way. I'm focused on the wrong thing. I'm focused on the how, not the outcome. What is one daily practice that you follow that makes you a better leader? Frankly, just a better human being?
Meditation. It is sitting quietly for 10, 15 minutes. I, moved from the city a few months ago, now live on an island where there's birds and natures and, sounds that aren't cars, sitting on my balcony and with my eyes closed and listening and counting the different number of birds I can hear and being present. I've done it all. I've done apps. I do guided meditations. I do breath work. I've been on silent retreats through the years, but it makes me a better mom, makes me a better wife. Everyone knows when it's been a couple days since I've meditated.
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking in the mirror right now, and my family probably knows when I have missed it as well. The metaphor that I like to use when I talk about meditation, because I'll mention it to somebody and they go, oh, that's that woo-woo hippie stuff. I'm like, no, it's not woo-woo hippie stuff at all. It is the curation of a circuit breaker. It's the being present that allows me, the thing that I can tell when I'm doing it, when I'm never going to be good at it, but I can be better, is I have a circuit breaker that allows me not to respond negatively, that's what I find when I get away from it or I'm not doing it. The circuit breaker doesn't work as well as it should, because I haven't spent time being present.
That's a good metaphor. I like that.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And we'll have to have another conversation on silent retreats. That's on my bucket list. There's a 10-day silent meditation retreat that I'm dying to do and just haven't had the courage yet to do it. Maybe I'm a little bit afraid of of what I'm going to learn about myself.
We can talk about it.
Let's do
and you
that.
Probably will.
You're not helping me.
Sorry.
How do you define success? At the end of the day, you closed your journal, had your last cup of tea, whatever your shutdown process is. How do you know that it's been a good day?
Did I make today better in some way for another human?
Not surprised by that answer at all. That's cool. Amanda, this has been just delightful. If people are interested in learning more about you, and then they're interested in, if there's strong women who are interested in exploring those inner fears or unlocking those deep secrets that they've been harboring about something they want to do, how do they learn more about you? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, Amanda S as in Sam Byrd, BYRD, AmandaSByrd.com, and there will be an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the Courage Circles when we're opening them up and how you can maybe be a part of our community.
It has been an absolute pleasure and delight, and I'm so glad that we were able to connect today. I've got a page and a half of notes and some things that I want to go study and learn, and I'm so grateful to you for taking this time. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy.
If today's episode gave you something to think about, something to apply, then there's more where that came from. Head over to arcusgroup.com and sign up for our newsletter. It's where we share tools, insights, and our leadership frameworks to help you lead with more clarity, more alignment, and more impact. No fluff, just what helps you lead better. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time on Leadership Unlocked.